Hi, my name is Venus O'Hara and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to talk about no more toxic relationships thanks to my sex toys. Oh yeah, I'm so grateful to my sex toys for saving me from lots of toxicity in my emotional life. It sounds crazy, but it's actually quite true. Let me start by asking you a question. Have you ever been in a relationship when the sex is mind-blowing and every time you're together there are fireworks, there's so much passion? However, when you're dressed and you're not having sex, there are different types of fireworks because you're arguing all the time and it's really passionate but not in a good way. And then to make matters worse, the more fired up your arguments are, the better the sex is. Well, I was in a relationship like that, and as you can imagine, it becomes a vicious circle, and it's very, very, very emotionally draining. But sometimes the high of those passionate sexual encounters with the fireworks can make it seem worthwhile. Well, that was me in my late teens and early to mid 20s. Excuse me. And by the time I was about need some water. Okay, that's better. By the time I was around 26, I had to have a very serious conversation with myself and say, this has to stop. And at the time I was living with a girl and she had a boyfriend who was living in a different city, a long distance relationship, and we were watching Sex in the City, and it was that episode when Charlotte buys a rabbit vibrator, and I thought, I need one of those. And my friend, whose boyfriend was a long way away, she thought, I need one too. So we decided to go shopping together. I already told the story about my very first sex toy, and I'll leave a link in the description below. But thankfully, what happened is when I finally worked out or finally mastered the art of masturbation, which took me several months, it has really changed my life, because now I feel as though I am orgasmically independent. Before that moment, more water. Before that moment, I felt that during penetration, for example, when my A spot was stimulated, which is very close to the cervix, I felt as though I was almost connecting with myself. It was mind-blowing. There were emotional factors when I was in love with the person, but not always. It just seemed like I almost depended on a man or depended on penetration to feel that amazing sensation. And it's not something I can replicate with a dildo, funnily enough. It's very unique. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It's more than just the I don't know, the joining of genitalia. There's something more about it, about that encounter, that just blows my mind on many, many levels. And also it's orgasmic. I always found that stimulation at that point was quite instantaneous for me. It was very pleasurable and almost ecstatic. And sometimes it made me cry as well. And they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of ecstasy, or almost relief, really. I guess I was, just expressing myself in a way I didn't know how else to express. I didn't know any other outlet for that tension. So this meant that sometimes I was in relationships with people who maybe, were toxic when we weren't having sex. And it was it caused me to have lots of inner conflict sometimes about my relationships. So finding a method to see the stars, or have fireworks, let's say, on my own was massively liberating. I didn't have to put up with arguments or this kind of sick passion or toxic passion anymore. It was incredible. And also I feel that becoming orgasmically independent has also actually improved my relationships, because now I've been able to go for many months at a time without having sex, which has been great. Whereas maybe before I discovered vibrators, it would have been a bit more difficult, let's say, because I didn't have an outlet for all that libido, because I do consider myself to be someone with a very high sex drive. So So finding a solution to take care of it on my own was amazing, amazing. And now, obviously, there's one thing as being a user of sex toys, another thing is being a professional sex toy tester with 500 sex toys in your bedroom, and you can imagine that can be very off-putting for lots of people. But at the end of the day, for me, it serves as a really good filter. And I know that someone who can not be intimidated by that is probably not going to be that toxic. Well, that's my experience anyway. So yeah, it's been fantastic. So thanks to my sex toys, no more toxic relationships. I've also seen it with friends around me who maybe on Tinder and they're having dates with different people every weekend and maybe ending up having sex, and they always, or unsatisfying sex, let's say. And I just think instead of doing that, because that's very uncomfortable process, at least it is in my opinion, to be meeting different people and then trying to see if you're sexually compatible. I think it's much better to have a vibrator and then approach dating with a very different outlook from the perspective of someone who is already sexually satisfied. I think that's a much better way, in my opinion at least, because I think otherwise it's like going to the supermarket when you're hungry. You're going to end up buying loads of things that you don't need. So yeah, I don't know if you can compare them, but that's my opinion at least. So I think if you're in a pattern of toxic relationships, I think it would be, or even having just toxic flings, I think it's interesting, or it would be an idea to ask yourself why, or is it validation, or is it for the physiological sensation, or is it an emotional need? I think it's definitely worth discovering sex toys and connecting, making a mind-body connection and having fun on your own. And over the years, my perspective or my approach to relationships has completely changed. And now I no longer have these very passionate relationships. I'm very calm, and I almost don't recognize myself. And I'm not the kind of person who has arguments anymore. I avoid arguments, but that's not to say that I'm a doormat. I'm very calm, and I find other ways to express if I'm not happy with something. So yeah, I'm really happy with the person I have become. And I think being sexually satisfied definitely has an impact on that. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and see you next time.